So let's see what are the basics in syntax. So in any function that you create, it's just like when you want to solve a problem, you first create through a machine. For example, when you solve a problem through a machine, you create a machine first, right? And then you use it. So there are two things that you're doing: creating a machine, or like creating a function definition. This is what we call defining a function, defining the functionality of a machine that you want to use by giving it a name, list of parameters. List of parameters means you provide inputs when you define a machine. So for example, when this phone was designed, it says that it takes multiple inputs in different forms. Like maybe Face ID, the camera is one of the input port. The charging port is another port. Okay? So when you are creating a function, you actually define what will be an input. Okay? It is an optional. It may or may not take input. And a block of intended statement, that is the functionality that you use. Okay? Then once you created the function, once you define the machine, now you are ready to use it. So that is what we call the function call. We call the machine, we call the function to perform that particular task. An invocation of the function's name to execute function statement. Okay? So similar example, if you want to charge your phone, you need to provide the input, okay? The charging wire. You need to connect the charging wire or wireless charging, however you prefer. Okay? So let's take an example here. We have our program. So this is where what we call the definition, def, is the keyword that is used to define the function, create a function. So this is the part we are giving it a name. Again, just like a projector here, I give it a name projector. Whenever I'm creating a block of code, modular function, I give it a name, print underscore name. And then in parentheses here, I define the list of inputs that this machine should expect. So here is only one input. I named it name. Okay? I could have name, comma, age, comma, something else. Okay? So I can provide multiple inputs as well. So once I define the function, give it a name, define the list of parameters, then I can start developing the logic that it should perform whenever this function is called, whenever this function is powered up. Okay? So here in this example, it is performing two operations. Print my name is, and whatever value we pass here. Okay? My name is, and it will pick the value, name, and then I study at UConn. There are two things that it will print. Okay? And then maybe we have some other logic which is outside this, which is not a part of the function. And then what we are doing is we are calling this function. So this is the function definition. You define the machine, define the function, and now you are calling this function. So what you're doing is, in order to call a function, you just write its name and pass the parameter values. So here I'm passing a string value, my name, Hassan, and I'm calling the same function again and just passing Joseph as a different name. So when I run this code, so when this function is called, it will jump to this part of the code, it will pass this value Hassan, and then execute this statement. It will print my name is, and whatever the name is being passed here, Hassan, and then it will print this I study at UConn. Similarly, when this function is called again with a different value, it will print a different value. My name is Joseph, I study at UConn. Okay? And yep.
What does the def stand for?
DEF is a keyword to define a function. Whenever you need to define a function, whenever you need to create a function, DEF is a keyword to use to create a function. Okay? All right, and this part is what we call the function definition, and this is what we call the function call. We can have multiple function calls. So I'm calling it first time, and then the second time, and then as many times as I want with the different values. I do not need to write this block of code again and again. Okay, yes? So these are just like, I'm showing that there might be some other piece of logic in your program. So when you're developing a program, you define the function, and then you have like some 100 lines of code, and then you're calling print name at the bottom or somewhere in your program. Okay, so these dots just shows that this is some other logic that is being written in this code. Okay? Any question? Any other? Okay, so let's proceed ahead with some definitions. A function may return one value using a return statement. So this is important to state here. So you see in this function, it has no return statement compared to what you saw here. Okay, so it has a return statement, means like it will perform some operation and then it will return some output, means it will generate an output that will be assigned to here where the function was called from. In this particular example, it will execute this statement without returning, without carrying any value back to the place where the function is called from. Okay, so it may return or may not return, but according to Python, it returns something every time. Even though if it is not returning, it returns nothing. We call it none. Okay, so a function may return one value using a return statement. Let's say, let's take this example. So these three arrows, recall that it's a notation of the terminal prompt. So let's say we have a function here. Definition, double is the name of the function. It takes one input, and what it does, it performs a multiplication, multiplied by 2, and then return that value back. Okay, so let's say if I call this function double with the value 3, what do you think will it return? It should return 6. And if I call it with 3.2, it should return 6.4. What about this now? What was that? Syntax error. Why? Because it's a string and we are trying to perform a mathematical operation. Okay, let's see. When we pass pika, it prints pika pika. Okay, you know why? Because only in Python we can perform a multiplication or an addition. We can use multiplication and addition operator. It works differently. It will just replicate it that many number of times. So here we multiply it by 2, so it just replicated twice. If you would have passed a value 3, sorry, if you would be performing 3 multiply by 3 operation, then it will be printing this pika 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 3 times. When you use addition operator, it will just concatenate 2 strings. So if it would be like, if I pass Hassan and then perform Hassan plus CSE, so it will print Hassan CSE without any space in between. It will just join 2 strings together. It only works in Python. Okay, no other programming language supports this operation. Okay, so addition and multiplication can be executed on strings in Python. Okay. All right, so a function can only return one item. We have talked about this, not 2 or more. So for example, if you have to return multiple items, how would we do that? Let's take a scenario. Let's say that you are moving your house from one place to another place. Would you be carrying each spoon, each plate separately? Of course not. So what you would do, what do you usually do? In a package, right? So you enclose them all together in a U-Haul box, for example, and then you can carry it wherever you want to carry it. Similarly, in function, if you have to return multiple values, we first need to package it together. So Python provides us like a very easy way to package it together by just specifying comma separated value and then return it. And then we can, outside the function definition, we can unpack it and use it however we want to use it. Okay? We'll be talking about this later as we move forward. So no return statement means it returns none. As I mentioned before, that if you do not have any return statement, it does not mean it is not returning anything. It still returns, but it returns none. So if you write, if you call a function something, if you call any function, so for example here, okay, if I enclose this entire thing in print statement, you will see it will print none, okay, because it will call a function, it will print this, and while returning back, it carries a value called none with it, and because you have enclosed this one inside the print statement, so it will throw off none. Okay, you can try that out in a while. And that function is generally referred as void function. It is not returning anything. So return statement may appear at any point in function. It is important from exam point of view also. I have a lecture video recorded for this already in a different playlist. So I will try to hook up the link of that video here. But what I wanted to explain to you is on board. It's not captured, of course. So look at this last statement also. So look at the last statement that I have just displayed. Encountering a return statement returns the value and terminates the function execution.